resume recording. All right, here we go.
All right, I had to agree to be recorded. Never seen that before.
Yeah, the new thing on Zoom.
New thing on Zoom.
Hey everybody, it's Johnny Mo. How are you? And I'm here with a friend of mine, Beverly Ruffner. And I knew Beverly years ago, and we just recently were able to reconnect through a mutual friend, client of ours. Client on one side, her client on one side on Explore My Town for me, who happens to be my Charleston, South Carolina partner. Super awesome dude, busy, cutting edge, and guess what? He's older than me. He's a boomer, so I can say that. But I love him, and he's out there doing it. He's doing video newsletters. He's got Beverly working the database and making sure that it's organized. And one thing, and the thing that I really want to talk about in this particular segment, is the number one thing when I talk to brokers about what their issue is or issues are. It always comes down to database.
Okay.
There's millions, tens of millions of dollars lost in the database. And what do brokers do? Just spend more money. Got to get more leads.
Yep.
But everything you need is there. Beverly, welcome. Tell us what they're doing wrong and how we can fix it.
You're speaking my language.
That's why you're here.
It's funny. I was calling leads in my Pensacola website yesterday, and I'm pulling leads that were literally, I call them lost. And that's kind of my motto, no lead left behind. And I pulled up all the leads that they had previous conversations with that just got forgotten about. So I'm looking through and I'm calling them. And one lady was a real estate agent that they had met them at a conference. And I'm like, that's interesting. So she's in Tennessee, the properties were in Pensacola. So I called the lady, and it led to conversation of what I do. And she's like, oh my gosh, I have 2 sites that are a complete mess. I need you. So she's now a client as of yesterday, but she was a lead in my dashboard. And she had registered 2 years ago and had never been called in 2 years.
Wow.
And that's what I find constantly. So in all of my dashboards that I'm working, it's not, nothing's ever changed, right? I've been doing this I had my dashboard. I started dialing internet leads back in 2017. 2007. Yeah, 2007. So it's been 2017. It's only been 3 years. So 13 years I've been doing this. And the main thing that I learned in the beginning was my own leads getting lost. And when my leads were getting lost, I had to do something about it because we weren't converting at the level that I knew we could. Now, the market, and I'm going to say not the real estate market, but the PPC market, the CRM market, so much has evolved in the last 13 years. Because back then, nobody was doing it, right? It was easy. Now everybody's doing it, so you have a lot of competition. So it's not just about having that first conversation anymore. Mm-hmm. It's about having multiple conversations, because these leads, what's changed from 20 years ago? And I always ask my clients this and my agents this, 25, 30 years ago, the only way that a buyer or seller had to be able to follow up what's happening in the market was the Sunday one ads, right? You remember that flyer that came in the Sunday paper that had all
2
the
pages? It was huge.
That, and then Sundays had the flyer, right? Where all the agents would market their properties, because that was a hot thing. Even when I started real estate in 2005, it's like
there's agents today that still have the photo from that as their headshot on their website.
That is true. Yeah, you might want to do an update. That is true. But let's just talk about this for a second, right? So back then, when people started looking for homes, they started looking in the Sunday paper, and they would go out driving around, and they would be thinking about it for 1 to 2 years before they actually made the move. The only thing that's different today is we see them looking at their paper on Sundays because it's now online. So we get frustrated when we have a conversation with somebody and the person says, oh, I'm 1 to 2 years out. My leads suck, right?
Yeah.
Because we're chasing the right now. We're chasing the bank account.
That's
We're chasing
it.
the deals that are right now.
Trying to eat today.
And we're mad because these people aren't buying now. Which brings me then to ask, when you go to a retail store and you walk in the store and a sales clerk says to you, is there anything I can help you with today? The common response is, no, I'm good. Right? Why? The hand goes up. We don't want sold to because we're sold to constantly. So we're pissed off at our leads for doing the exact same thing that we do.
You know what though? Ryan Folan, a friend of mine who mentored me 3 years ago, I guess, about communication and getting prepped for venture capitalist presentations. He took, it's the 313 method of communication. People instantly are on guard. On guard.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, especially think about they're getting a phone number on their phone that they don't recognize.
Mm-hmm.
That is the instant defense mechanism. Like, I'm getting ready to be sold to.
Yeah.
So their defenses are up on the other side of the phone, and it's up to us to break it down. So if you go back to the retail store and that sales clerk says to you, well, great, I won't bother you, but if you were to buy something today, would it be for business, casual, or special occasion? You're going to answer it, right?
Oh.
So it's even taking that phone call that next level. So great. I know you're not buying now, but what has to happen to make that move? And what you were talking about, Johnny, that's where all the money gets lost after that conversation.
Well, that's given credit though, what credit's not due, that they're actually making a phone call.
That is true. There is truth to that.
Right. And then they make the one phone call. I don't remember what the number is. I hear it from very smart people, 8 and 13. That's the number. So I say between 8 and 13 is the number of contacts or follow-ups that you have to do. If it was easy as making one phone call and going out and selling a house and making $500, $7,500, $10,000, everybody would be doing it. Everybody else would be doing it.
Exactly. And that's what I tell everybody. All you have to do is be a little bit better than your competition. And the good news is, to be a little bit better, make 3 phone calls instead of 1.
Yeah.
Because the average lead gets called 1 time when they end up in a dashboard.
And that's from, now we're talking to brokers here, and this will be made available to brokers, not agents per se. And so brokers, listen up to this. You got to watch what your agents are doing and not give them access to all the leads. I got a friend of mine. She'll share the story with you, Linda. She's also an admin in LCA brokers group. And she had lost over $30 million. She's wondering why she's spending all this money. She's a power user with Commissions Inc. at the time. She switched over to CR Interactive and loves it. She's a power user. She trained, she coached. They got her information. You know what I mean? They asked her opinion. And she spent thousands of dollars a month on advertising. And she's sitting there saying one day, why am I getting thousands of leads a year and I'm broke, in essence? So she took her director of, customer service, her admin, her assistant, to go through and do a sampling of leads, called these people. And people were like, oh no, we already bought a home. Oh no, we already sold our home. No, nobody's ever reached out to me. And by sampling, you can create a pattern, and that pattern can give you a trajectory or a result, right? A hypothesis that can be proven. And she's over 30. When I first talked to her, it was 20 something, like 23 million. And then I talked to her a month later. She goes, no, it's about 36 million. I don't care what market you're in. I don't care who you are. 36 million in lost production. If it doesn't piss you off, not even lost, just completely disregarded out the window.
Yep.
And
I was in a dashboard yesterday. He has never made a phone call in it. He's had the dashboard since Commissions Inc. came out. And I went back to leads that registered years ago that are active right now. And when I started calling them, that's when you really get a good answer rate, because they've never been called. They've been looking for a while. They recognize the area code. And I literally, within 10 phone calls, I had 3 people. It was over, I mean, how much was it? I had one double ender that he was a $900,000 sale, and he was downsizing. He was like a $600,000 or $700, 6 or 700,000 purchase in one phone call of leads that registered years ago. There's so much money that's sitting in that dashboard. And to your point, Johnny, what they're doing, what most brokers are doing is they're front loading, spending all of their money on generating the leads. And when the agents see these leads coming in, they don't care what happened yesterday. They're focusing on what's coming in because that's easy.
It's the classic roller coaster.
Yes. Yes. Right. So all that money coming in and being spent and not being returned on the investment, because the agents are like, well, miss that one. I'll just call the next one that comes in. And then we got the switchboard Sarahs that work, right? That call you, that call the lead whenever the leads are coming in. So the agents don't have to do anything. So why would they sit down at the computer and actually be proactive when all they have to do is be reactive?
Which is where most agents' minds are. I'm a CEO of a company. I try not to deal with people much because it takes you out of that level 6 down to that level 3, level 2, level 1, got to respond and do all these things, where what I need to be doing is saying, okay, what pieces do I need to put into place over the next years, and how's that going to look? And you know what I mean? Putting the whole vision together. Now, I say agents, and this is where I've come from forever, is agents need to act as CEOs of their business. Well, if an agent needs to, a broker needs to more, right? So you got to look at these. One thing that Linda put into place was, and you can explain how this is potentially possible or a benefit from it. She did it with Commissions Inc. and then I think with Sierra. I don't use these systems anymore. That's why you're here. But what she did was, she reduced, instead of having full access to leads, she reduced it down to, you could have 10 or 20. You could trade them in at any time and pull another one out, but you could only have so many leads at a time. What do we call that? What do we call it? Round robin? We call that pond? What strategy is that?
Yeah, well, you can do a round robin, or, well, if you have the leads in the pond, all the agents have access to the entire database that is not claimed by an agent. Gotcha. So those are just, the people, like, they can be worked because they're not claimed. Yeah. But the round robin, and I'm not a huge fan of round robin automatically because I like to be able, I look at a lead as, if you're the broker and you are the owner of those leads, it is your fiduciary duty to service these people, to save them from going with agents that are outside of your competition to have a bad experience. If you are paying for leads, you want to give your community the best experience in real estate that you can possibly give. And if those leads aren't being worked, shame on you. Because when I looked at my leads in my dashboard, I'm like, I got to save every single one of these, because I would open up my dashboard in the morning. I go, oh, what listings went on the market today? And I would see this agent had got this listing. I'm like, oh my God, that is the worst agent. Oh my God, I can't believe they listed with her. But it was my fault because they didn't know I was open for business. So when I'm looking at my leads in my database, I have to save them from a bad experience, because real estate agents already have a bad freaking rap because we suck. Everybody thinks we make way too much money for the little job that we do. And it's probably pretty true.
It can
unfortunately.
Be. It can be. Some people are in it just for the money.
Yes.
And this is what they're doing. Nope. Yes, boom, yes. Gone. Come back, sit down. Right. But here's the thing.
I wanted to finish my thought on the round robin.
All right.
Because what happens if you have it automatically round robining to the agents, you automatically are going to have, that's that Pareto principle. 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the work. And if the wrong lead goes to the wrong agent, to the 80%er agent, it's not going to get worked. And it's not fair to the brokerage. So I like to see databases where the agents earn their rights to the leads because they're actively working the leads that are in their bucket.
Now we're getting juicy.
And if they don't work the leads that are in their bucket, they don't get new leads coming in, because you don't need to spend a shit ton of money on new leads if your old leads aren't getting worked. And that's where you have to have proper systems in place and have that expectation of everyone working the database the same way. Because the reality is, if you don't have a system in place and you don't have everybody working the system, how can you have accountability? You can't.
Well, that is a fantastic question. How? Now, I'm sure you'll go into, all right, you just mentioned creating a bucket and accountability. How do we do these things? I know every CRM is different, and there's 17,000 of them.
Yep.
And if we want to know which one's the best one, we can go into the Lab Coach group and ask what's the best CRM. But I know that we're going to focus on some of the most popular ones: Commission Inc., Firepoint, Sierra, right? Those are your specialty.
Yep.
So let's hear about that. How do you create that bucket? How do you create that scheme? Because I know everybody's like, this sounds great. How the hell do I do it?
How do I do it? Exactly. I got 10,000 leads and they're a mess. I don't even know what to do with them. Like,
I have 47,100 other things to do too now.
Yeah. Where do I start? So when you look at a dashboard of thousands of leads, I look at it like a store, a retail store. When you go into a retail store, and I'm just going to use a grocery store as an example because we all go there, there's thousands of products on the shelf. And not only are there thousands of products, there's thousands of different types of products. You have brownie mix and you have like 10 different brands, but you know where to find it, you know where to buy it, and you know the brands. They're all together, they're all organized, they all make sense. So if you look at your dashboard the same way as a store, instead of having product on the shelves, you have people's situations on the shelves. So when I first go into a database of thousands of leads, it is like going to the storage room where the tractor trailer just dropped off all of the retail and all the boxes need open and put on the shelves. But there's no overhanging signs on the aisles. There's no tags on the shelves. You don't even know where the hell to put the product. So you have to organize your grocery store on what makes sense to the consumer. You put all the condiments with the condiments. You put the mayo, the salad dressing, the pickles, the ketchup. It all makes sense, as should your conversations in your database.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of, what's that?
I know this stuff. I just want to say, hey, everybody, I know what she's saying right now is going to sound really wacky and stuff like that, but this is her gig. So really,
yeah, Ann, no, it makes sense. Is it making sense to you, Ann?
we're going to get, well, yeah, it does, but because I've heard you before. And I know your thing.
You're speaking my language, girl. You're speaking my language.
So this is how Ann does it in her office right here. Wait a minute.
Put that coffee down.
Do you see how big my coffee cup is?
Well, mine's not much smaller. Yours is big and round. Mine's high.
Yeah.
So
carry on with your recipe.
So the reality is, if you've ever been to a grocery store that you've never been into before, your mind goes back to the grocery store that you always go to, and you're like, oh, the canned chicken, right? The canned chickens with the canned vegetables. It's all canned goods are together. Well, so I go into the store because I'm making chicken salad. I went to get canned chicken. I could not find the freaking canned chicken. I'm not one to ask, right? I'm going to find it. It should be in this aisle. It was over in the freaking produce. Like, who puts canned chicken in the produce? It made no sense to me whatsoever. And it's kind of like when I go into a dashboard, you got a lead that has had a conversation that does not have a place at all. It's just lost in the abyss. It's like when you go shopping and you're in the cereal aisle and someone decided not to buy their apples and they set their apples in the cereal aisle. It's like completely out of place. It makes no sense. That's the dashboards that I work. So when I go into a dashboard, it is like going back to the storage room where everything is in the boxes. And when you're looking at leads, you're literally looking at the leads and you're putting them on the shelf and you're creating the aisles in the grocery store so that in the future, you know exactly what's going on. There's two different ways to look at it. I've never spoke to these leads. I need to find out where they are in the process. I've spoke to these leads I need to organize the ones that I spoke to and prioritize them based on the quality of the conversation.
Is this what we call segmentation?
Segmentation, yes.
The segmentation is where the money's made, but go ahead.
Yes, because when you segment, you're able to prioritize those lists. So looking at it like a 550-mile trip, you get in your car, you set the GPS and it says 550 miles. And we've all been there. We all know the long stretch of road that's 300 miles. We like the stretch of road that's 25 miles to this exit, 30 miles to this exit, 50 miles to this exit, because you can see the end, right? You're like, oh, 50 miles, like I got this, that's about 50 minutes. Well, if you're a driver like me, it's 40 minutes, but you have that end. But then when you get on that 300-mile stretch with no exits, you just want to pull out your hair because it seems like it takes forever to notch down 300. And that's the whole purpose and premise of segmenting your database, taking those thousands of leads and putting them into micro groups that make sense to work on 25 leads here, 50 leads here, 100 leads here, because then it seems more manageable and you have a focus. And not only are you creating lists, you have very defined lists of people that they're relocating, they're divorcing, they have bad credit, they have a low price value, they're retiring. You're segmenting them into situations for mass communication that makes sense to the lead. So with every conversation, everybody says, Bev, what's your conversion ratio? I'm like, F conversion. I can't have conversion if I don't have conversation. So what's my conversation ratio and what's my quality of my conversation? Because once you start tagging or labeling your leads, you have to start asking better questions to know where to put them. There's nothing worse than getting off the phone and not knowing where to put somebody. That would be like, I don't know where a cucumber goes. Like, I don't know what a cucumber is.
I'm gonna say the unpopular thing here first before I say that. You're talking, this can all be done with some form of tagging scheme or labeling scheme. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good. So everybody knows every CRM has this opportunity and option. You got to really draw it out on a napkin first. I mean, I deal with complex
best practices
information systems. I got to draw these processes out. Otherwise, it's junk. What's happening is all these leads are coming into general admission. And it's just like, but the good ones are being left behind. So you need somebody at general admission being the, what do you call that? Traffic cop. You're over here, you go over here, you're out of here. Delete.
I like that analogy. Like when you go to a concert, you have tickets,
exactly.
you have a certain seat, but you don't know where to go, and they're guiding you. Yes.
I was told the other day, this is the number that we go with, and if I'm wrong, we're going to blame somebody else, not me, because I got to defer blame. But there were 50 million leads generated last year. I don't even want to call them leads. There are 50 million inquiries generated last year or this year. Last year, I believe it was. How many homes were sold? Not 50 million. So that inquiry that's sitting in your inbox might be there 3 times, actually.
Yes.
Right? But they're also in somebody else's.
Yes.
And if you're not gonna, if you don't reach out, and the thing is, what we talked about a minute ago is, average agent gives up after 1, 2, 3 times they're done, but the magic comes 8 and 13. I think it was, I forget who said it, so I don't want to quote somebody, but I believe it was from the Zillow or Realtor.com thing, where they said that the average person from inquiry to close is like 13 months. Right? 13 to 16 months. People who are thinking about selling and buying, they don't just decide today. Exactly. They've thought about it. They've done they're doing some research. They're looking. I look every day for certain pieces of land up north. I mean, I'm going to buy one today.
I look every day for shoes. No.
Right.
Look at that.
So some of these people are a year out, a year and a half out, 8 months out. Right now, the order taker, the meat clerk, number 43, those are layups, man. Those are there. And people are
what you have to remember on that point is what you're doing today is where you're going to be in 60 to 90 days. If you're not calling the leads and having the conversations today, you're not going to have right now next year. You're not going to have a February. So when it's all about the mindset of this is what, if I don't work today, I'm not going to have anything in 60 to 90 days, not right now, right? Everybody thinks I'm going to sit down and I'm going to create business right now. Well, that was back in 2007. You could create right now business in 2007 because those leads, they never had that opportunity before to see a house online and connect with an agent. That was brand new. Mm-hmm. But now everybody knows.
See, we're spoiled. We have selective memory. It wasn't that long ago.
No.
It wasn't that long ago until we came online.
Yeah. And it was, I'm just so glad that I got in on it early. But, and that was my point, to where years ago, we didn't know that people were looking at their Sunday paper for 2 years before they decided to walk into the office and say, I need an agent. Mm-hmm. Nothing has changed with the time frame when people think about a move to actually executing the move. The only thing that's changed is they have the opportunity to search online, and we have the opportunity to see them searching. Yeah. Nothing's changed with how leads suck. They still sucked back then. We just didn't know it because we didn't see them sitting at their table on Sunday mornings looking through their paper and driving around for 2 years.
Now they just suck more because there's more of them. Yeah. But it comes down really to this, right? It all comes down to this. I'm guilty of it. I had horrible database practices, but I built my entire business by referral and relationships. So it was almost okay for me because as long as I didn't forget to show up to your event, I was good. But we get so many leads in these databases that it comes down to disciplined database habits. And in the UPAD principles that I teach, understand, plan, action, and discipline. Discipline creates the accountability back to the management level, the broker overviewing all the stuff, or the individual reviewing their own business. Yeah. And the discipline creates the accountability. Accountability plus discipline equals success, right? So we got to as I think, correct me if I'm wrong, as the broker who owns the database, who's paying for all these leads and everything else like that, we really need to drill into good database habits, what our database policy is going to be, what our tagging scheme is going to be, and how that process is going to flow. And then also, if you're handing out leads to agents, how many leads or inquiries or suspects do agents get? Can they turn them back in, get a new one? How many can they have at any one given time? But there's got to be, and it's the hardest thing in the world, dealing with real estate agents. I know. I get it. Okay. I get it. They all have squirrel brain. We can all agree to that. It's nothing new. They're all going 15 million miles an hour, but there's got to be some level of accountability for the leads that you're paying for that agent.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is that agent doesn't give a shit.
Well, and I always said, if I could create a system that calling leads would be like Candy Crush, we could get someone actually addicted to calling the leads. And that's exactly what happened to me, because I love knocking things off my list. I love seeing a list of 20 go down to 0. I'm like, yes, whether I got an appointment or not, I was like, yes, I cleared out my list. I'm good. And when you create those systems of calling, these are the leads that I have to call in this list. These are the leads I have to call in this list. And even for ISAs, to have a book to say, okay, this is my calendar and these are my priorities and my call list that I have to get through without thinking about it. How much freaking time is wasted trying to find Bob that you talked to 3 months ago that wanted that property that just came on the market and now you can't even freaking remember his name and he's not organized. Or, and I was so guilty of this. I'm like, my goal back in the day, and I almost laugh at it, I'm like, I want to call 40 leads and have 5 conversations. I could never do it. I would have one conversation that would last an hour and I got through 5 leads. And I gave all of my energy to that one lead. I'm like, woohoo, I rocked that. And then I didn't do anything else. And then I gave them permission to go out and take all that knowledge and work with another agent because I never actually met with them. But I would sit there and I would read the stinking notes going, oh, they're looking at this property. They're looking at that. Oh, they're low value. I'm not going to call them. I would talk myself out of why I shouldn't call these people. And then you call them and they'll answer the freaking phone. So you spent 5 minutes looking at the damn notes and for what?
I was referred a guy that had a trailer he wanted to sell, right? It was a referral from a good client. I went and met with the guy, really liked him. Yeah, unbeknownst to me, he also wanted to buy a new construction. You know what I mean?
How much?
So those little ones turn into big ones. But we're talking a lot about new leads coming in, and we're gonna when we're exiting this, we're gonna give 3 ideas or something like that you can do right now that can help. So put you on the spot for that. But let's segue just a little bit, because these are all new leads that are coming in. And the work that you're doing with Keith is a lot of, there's leads there.
What is that? So I go back to the Barney days. Clean up, everybody do your share.
I'll call you. I'm calling you.
So Keith does, he's not afraid to say it. Him and I have done webinars on it. He's closed 3 million in business from staying in touch with, the leads, his sphere, and his past clients through consistency of a video newsletter that goes out each week. And you can't even start to begin to do this until you're semi-organized. And this is part of the segmentation. Yeah. So explain that process. You come into and I just want everybody to know, it's not just new leads coming in. That's where the beginning of the problem is, right? It's like that funnel, right?
Yep.
And so we're talking about a lot of new leads coming in. There's pandemonium, right? You're sitting there at the edge of Egypt, and here comes all these people in a mass exodus. Well, let me just get out of your way. Here they all come, right? And that's how it is with the database. And then it's just like, whatever happens, whichever one falls out. So the segmentation with new leads coming in is important, but also the segmentation of your spheres, your past clients and stuff like that. So you can hit them, set them up on some level of, I don't want to say automation fully, because he records the newsletter and puts it out each week, but so there's some level of consistency, right? And that all comes from segmentation and organization. So
because you can focus your target and be very specific about your message. And, my philosophy is our first objective is find out where they are in the process and when are we going to fit into their life. And then the next objective is keeping them in your database by you always staying top of mind, because in today's day and age, it's just way easier to Google, right? It's just easier to Google and go into someone else's dashboard than it is to stay in the dashboard that you're already in. And what I love about what Keith is doing is it gives me something to have a conversation with to keep the people engaged. Because what I'm doing, we had an import from one CRM to this CRM, and it imported beautifully. Yet the unfortunate thing is these leads weren't worked. So I'm dealing with leads that registered 6 months ago, a year ago, that have never been called.
That's hard.
And I'm in here making these phone calls, and that I can't tell you how many. Well, I could go back and pull my tag on how many already purchased. It's a painful process to hear, but it's also an exciting process to hear as well, because these leads are legit. It keeps you going. And so what I like to look at is, did I squeeze all of the juice out of the lemon, that if someone tells me they already purchased, did I call them 85 times? Did they get every email that was on point? Were they engaged? Were they getting the emails? Did I do everything I possibly could have to say I wouldn't have won it anyway? Right? And we had one in our database. We called them 75 times. My agent called. She's like, Bev, I just got a call back from one of our leads. I go, it happens every now and then. She goes, no, you don't understand. I called him 75 times from May to November, 75 dials, because of the filters he was falling into. We don't think about it. We just dial. And that's the way it should be. You just go in there, you do your job, and you get out.
Just for 1 hour a day?
Depending on how many leads you have coming in. Once I get a system set up and organized, now if you have 200 leads coming in a month, one person working it, one person organizing it, I'm about 2 hours a day on a 150 to 200 lead system that's coming in to keep up with the new leads and keeping the agents up to date with what's going on. And that's a lot of leads to manage. But I can manage 200 leads a month at 2 hours a day. An agent shouldn't need to do that. If you stay consistent with your leads that are coming in and organizing your leads on an average database of agents getting 40 to 50 leads a month, 15 minutes a day focusing on managing the people that they've never spoke to, and another 15 minutes with their reminders and following up with their nurtures. That's it. That is it. But the problem is we don't ever do it.
And that right there is the importance. This right here is the importance of time blocking.
Yes.
Time blocking is just a word thrown out in the coaching world to make everybody sound important, like they know what they're talking about, right? Oh, this guy talking about time blocking. But this is the reason, this is the time blocking activity that needs to happen.
Yes. Well, and the fact is, what do you do when someone doesn't show up at a property? What do you do when a listing appointment cancels? What do you do when your settlement got pushed out? What are you doing with that time? Because in my book, if you're not at the settlement table getting that money, you should be with a client. If you are not with a client, you should be networking to get a client. And that's the way it goes. It just flows uphill to get to that settlement table. Mm-hmm. And knowing your numbers, how many phone calls does it take to get to a conversation? How many conversations does it take to get to an appointment? How many appointments does it take to get to the closing? And that's where you track your stages of leads. New, I'm attempting to contact you. I've contacted you. I've set an appointment. I'm showing, and I have you under contract.
What advice might you have? Because I know some people, I've worked with big teams and, medium-sized brokerages and stuff like that. And everybody's slightly different. And the one that I'm particularly thinking about, all the leads came in. They had an inbound ISA and they had an outbound ISA that was making cold calls too, right? Then they had one or two inbound ISAs that would handle the leads or whatever like that, hand them off to the agent when they were warmed up. But one of the issues that came to me, and it was asked to me, how do we fix this issue? This is 2 years ago. I'm going to parlay it to you. How do you get the person, whoever the person is, agent, ISA, to make sure that they're putting notes? Because I think notes are the most important thing.
Oh, if there's no notes, it didn't happen.
Right? How do you get them to put the notes into the lead? Because maybe that person leaves, maybe there's a new person and that lead pops up. You got to know that, hey, and even for your own thing, hey, I talked to Mr. Mrs. has a procedure. She might have cancer, something like you can call up and say, hey, Mr. Seller, buyer guy, how you doing? Hey, just wanted to check on Mrs., see how you doing, and how's Mrs. doing with her diagnosis and everything else like that. Everything good there. Some people just want when I have my ISA, my telemarketer, she'd be over there carrying on a conversation for 45 minutes. And I never reprimanded her. I just go ahead and do it because her close ratio was so high, right?
Building relationships.
You got somebody on, they're best friends.
Building relationships, yes.
But how do you get people to stay, and that's the word, y'all, it's discipline and consistency for the agents, but we're moving so fast. And that's why time blocking.
How do you train a dog to sit?
I don't know. They just know how.
Consistency.
Oh.
Consistency. You have to keep training and keep training and keep reminding. Meow. Mine's leaving me alone right now. Yeah, when Johnny and I are on webinars, like our cats are always, it's the consistency. And I have one team in Pensacola. They're amazing, and I love them. And I go in behind, so I send them opportunities. I set their reminders, and I was just in there today. I double check on their overdues, and I'm like, hey, don't forget about this person. Hey, don't forget about this person. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I front out tell them, I love you. You may not like me every day. because I'm going to be a pain in your ass. That you have hired me to increase your conversion. And I know you know what you need to do. So I'm going to be your accountability partner to make sure it gets done.
That's what everybody needs.
Yes. And that's why it's so hard when people are hiring all of these call centers. They're just out there making these phone calls with no accountability back to the agent. And it's great. Yes, the call center can make some good connections, but the agent never knows it. And it's so discouraging to me to go back into. So, people will call me and say, Bev, call my leads. And I'm like, all right, so I'm going to step back and talk to you about calling your leads. It's not about how many phone calls can Bev get done. It's not about how many conversations can Bev have. It's about how many opportunities I'm getting over to you and you're taking to the next level. Because I can do it all day long. In 1 hour, I can get a good 2 to 3 opportunities building that pipeline for the agent. But if they don't take it the next step further, what's the point? Mm-hmm. So to your point, everything comes down to communication. And the agents have to understand that we're not sitting here yelling at them or telling them they're not doing their job. We understand that they're busy, they're out in the car. The last thing they want to freaking do is when they get home, update notes. Hell, I hate leaving notes when I'm on the computer making the phone calls, let alone getting home from showing properties and having to sit and make a note. No. And that's what I love about Sierra, because as long as the agents have their phones connected, the conversations are recorded. And if I'm going in behind them, I can listen and update and move. But we have to have that conversation of trusting each other, because agents are very territorial of their leads. Even to the ISA, they're like, don't touch my leads. Like, I got that one, don't call that one. I'm like, dude, I've got your back. It's okay if I call and follow up. They're not going to hate you. I'm going to make you sing like Oprah. I mean, I'll make you look amazing. Just trust. You're muted, Johnny.
Sarah records the call. Firepoint does recording too, does it not?
Yes.
For multiple phones, for multiple agents, if you have those seats?
Yeah, if you have the dialer connected in there, yes, it records.
Okay. So just wanted to make sure. And I mean, it's almost to the level of this. Here's the deal, man. Linda lost $30 million plus. Let me get my computer. Let me figure the math out on that. That's a lot of money.
No accountability. I worked in her database for a good while and trained her daughter, which was the ISA a few years ago. And Belinda and I would have meetings every couple of weeks. We had all these opportunities, these agents, and they weren't touching anything.
They weren't touching it. And as the business CEO, you have to be aware of this.
Yes.
You have to put safeguards. It's not the agent's fault. It's not.
It's the lack of expectation.
I
also ask my team too. Do your agents have skin in the game?
That's a big thing.
Is their hand out or is their hand up? And there is a big difference on how the agents are going to work the leads based on the amount of skin they have in the game.
Yes. And I posted today, my post was something out of the E-Myth. And I like to brag that I was mentored by Michael Gerber, because I was, and it's pretty fascinating. And I enjoy it. I listen to my sessions all the time. So, and then a boo-boo to that one. But anyways, my post today was about abdication and delegation, right? And it's straight from the E-Myth, and it's straight something that he and I talked about. And majority of people are abdicating, right? I got a bunch of leads. Here you go. Let me know when the closing is. I'll cut you your check, right? Where no, $30 million in 1 year in lost revenue and lost production is a lot. It's almost $1 million, man. So you don't need more leads. You need to do a better job with the leads that you have.
It's work in the process. Yeah.
Correct. With segmentation. Let's just talk about that one last time. A lead comes in. What happened? It's a whole bunch of if-then statements.
Yes.
Right? So a lead comes in. What how do you determine, does it go to the left or does it go to the right bucket? Or does it go to the delete bucket?
It stays in that bucket until you have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And the priority, and that's why the dashboards that create that home search ability for those leads, the ones that maintain staying active are your top priority that you're going to focus on first. And the ones that go inactive or they fall a little bit further down the priority list. So as you're having conversations and as you're moving these leads into their said buckets, putting them on the shelf of the grocery store so that you can access them in a moment second. But it's that first initial, there's two ways, right? If you set up your database out of the gate, brand new, I'm getting Sierra and I'm going to start lead generating right now. You can have your best practices built and you can start segmenting those leads and you have an organized dashboard. And you have to remember, at the end of the day, we are in a service industry. What do we have of value when we decide that we don't want to do business anymore? The database. And if that database is not organized, all you have is a mother effing phone book full of names and phone numbers of people that just thought about buying a house. But if it's organized based on the conversations, the value of your business, of your brokerage is increased. Because why do people buy businesses? For the data. So the more data you have collected, the more organized that data is, the more valuable your company is. And that business can run even if you're hit by a Mack truck today.
Really, majority about the data.
Yeah, it's
Now,
all about the data.
What are 3 tags right now, today, somebody should create in their CRM?
Monitor activity. Because this is what's going to be the next step down on setting the reminder. Because a reminder that gets set in my mind, the only time I set reminders is when there's a 70% chance or more of that agent sitting down at the settlement table with that lead. Based on their urgency, based on their pain, based on what their current situation is and why they want to make a move. I have all that information and I know if the agent does the right thing, they're going to be at the settlement table unless something happens in their life that they change their minds, and God knows that happens, right? So that's your top priority. But the tag, the monitoring activity, that's where we want to make sure we keep them. Because if we're depending on freaking email to go into their inbox, exactly, shit goes to spam. And if they don't stay active opening emails, because we all set it up daily, well, if they don't open it up for 2 weeks, guess where it's going?
If it comes to me, you're getting a Control-Alt-Delete, so
Junk. Yes.
like, oh, gone.
So monitoring activity, when I have a conversation with somebody and I confirm their email, they want to receive the listings, they want to stay updated, and I know they're within the year, that's my next level down of my follow-up and nurture. The only reason we do not like to do tasks is because it's one by one and it is monotonous because it takes too much time. When we tag monitor activity, we have a group of leads that we can look at in the dashboard on an iShot to look and see who's logged in, who hasn't logged in, when was my last phone call. So if I talk to you a month ago and you have not yet logged in, you're getting a phone call from me.
Is there any kind of equation that you can look at your database and say, now, I don't even like this term. I don't even like what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it, right? Because we use the term database like it's a SQL database or something, right? You got this collection of suspects.
Huh?
And some of these suspects have proven that they're a little bit more serious than others. Because some of them send in some pretty funky phone call, email, whatever it is.
Okay.
So if you have, let's say, 100 serious people in your, whatever you just monitor activity, is there an equation, percentage, that you can say 10%, 20%, 30% historically?
No, I don't have an answer for that. I really don't, because I work in so many different dashboards and I don't know what they end up closing at the end of the day. But going back to just being a little bit better than your competition, I always say he who has the conversation is holding the cards, because you know what has to happen for them to make a move. If you've never spoke to them, you're a little bit further behind. So when you have the conversation, putting them in the proper bucket is really half of the battle, because getting them to answer the phone, getting them to raise their hand, getting information from them is the battle. Once you get it, don't lose it. Hold on to that. I don't care sometimes if they're logging into other people's dashboards. I'm calling leads right now on a couple of different my platforms. These leads are 2,000 days old. And the one guy's like, I'm still looking. I'm like, and I call him out. I'm like, dude, you have been looking for 2,000 days. He's like, do you really know that? I go, actually, it's been like 1,178 days. I said, you logged in looking at this property. He's like, that's kind of creepy. I said, but you're still looking. What's going on? Like when do you plan on making a move?
Wicked creepy.
So these people know my agents because they're getting these emails and they're staying engaged. But we can't help. We can't make somebody move. And we can't help when life happens to them. And, when we put them in that monitor activity, when people spout out their conversion ratios, I call bullshit, because I'm like, 9 out of 10 dentists choose Colgate. Well, I can manipulate numbers all day long. What are you running your numbers off of? Because technically, if you're running proper conversion numbers, you better do it from that first lead you generated to the lead that you just generated today and pull it all in together. So how are you running your conversion ratios? Just off of the conversations you've had? Are you running it with the bad phone numbers that you get? Are you running it with all the leads? Like, you can't even have a proper conversion, because we're converting somebody this year from 5 freaking years ago in our database.
Wow.
So how do you really convert? Like, how do you have a proper conversion ratio? Because of timing, because everybody is so far out. So if you're monitoring activity, it's how long do you monitor their activity? Because I have had conversations with people that are like, you know what? Yes, I'm planning on moving in October. So I'm following up with them right now, October. Just talked to a lady today. She goes, my husband was just tested positive for COVID. I go, oh my God, like how? And she said he was going back with his mother to Bolivia and had to get tested to get on the plane. And he tested positive, no symptoms. She said, so we're on hold, obviously, for 2 weeks. And she's like, just check back with me, next month and kind of see where we're at. Shit happens to people. So how long are we going to monitor that activity? And it's until they buy or die.
Yeah. And let me just say, I made a lot of money this one way through my database, but it's because of proper tagging. These people were in my there was a point that I was going after buyers, and then that switched to sellers, right? Like the whole transition is supposed to happen at some point. But I would, I had a big market. We had a big market center, 400 agents, right? And somebody would be like, oh, I'm looking for, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3,000 square foot home in Goffstown. And nothing was on the market. So what would I do is I would sit down to my database, and I would find all my sellers that were in Goffstown, and I could call them with intentionality. So when you can intentionally do something versus just being so reactionary. And that's a place that I think a lot of people miss. I think not even miss, flat out ignore, doesn't even know that it exists.
Well, especially in today's market with a lack of inventory, right? We can pull in our dashboards people that are looking in particular markets. And we can pull a lot of data that we can use working for us. If we have a buyer that's looking for a said location in a said neighborhood, we can go back to your point, our seller leads, and say, hey, we have a buyer that is looking in this location, and do you know anybody? And play matchmaker. We don't use our database to work for us. We're just looking at it as our leads suck. But there's so many different ways to work your dashboard, but having it organized is the number one way to increase your conversion.
Yeah, surely is. we're getting ready to wind down because, well, because it's late. It's 1 hour. We go 1 hour if we're having fun. We're having fun, man. We'll keep going. I'm just trying to take a look at this URL real quick, and I'm going to share a URL inside of the group in a minute. It's wicked long. I don't know why, but I'm going to share it in the group. It's a URL to you and what you do and how you fix databases. So it'll give
fix it. Yeah, if you just do fixyourcrm.com.
Fix your got it. CRM.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now everybody's got it. Oh, there you go. That's easy. So let me put it in the chat so everybody has it.
And we have multiple levels, and really the biggest piece is cleaning up that dashboard. And there are quick ways to be able to clean it up and segment, and especially if you have a team of agents. Cleaning up the dashboard is the beginning of building your best practices, because they're getting in there and they're going to find the mistakes that they've made, and they're going to find the gold. And, I can guarantee you that depending on how many leads you have in there, depending on how many agents you have in there, every agent will walk away with an opportunity.
What's your thought on, I see this becoming rather popular and, people posting about it and stuff like that, but call night or call day or
call. Oh my God, we have a tag. There's another tag, right? Night call. How many times do you call leads and like, I'm at work, I can't talk right now. Night call. Or even recognizing landlines.
I'm in the office. Everybody shows up. It's
that's
call
what I'm
night.
saying. If you're tagging your leads as night call,
I got you.
Or landline, you're creating a super simple list for them to pull on the night calls. Pull up your night call leads.
And that's the thing. What you're talking about right here really is process, right? Yeah. And nobody teaches process. We all get these CRMs and we're supposed to just figure them out, do our own
thing. And the
thing.
CRM companies don't teach process. Because they're focusing on generating the leads for you. And
agents, listen, I try to tell them that you own your own business and run it like a business. Most of them don't. Most of them are simply 1099 self-employed people. Okay. They don't run a business, but the broker's got to run the business, and it's up to us, you, to create that policy and put it in place. This is how it happens. You're going to use my leads. This is how it happens. Now, there's different levels, right? Let's talk. I'll just say this real quick. I got a friend, Jonathan Carbuti. He second generation independent broker in Connecticut, runs his brokerage like a team. Now, ain't nobody getting 80%. These leads, when the ISA hands them to you, you have an appointment, right? So you're getting much less because they're doing all the work. At the end of the day, the real estate agent is nothing more than a salesperson.
Yep.
And it's your sales organization. And if you went to work for Microsoft, Microsoft's going to say, here's the leads, here's the database, here's what we expect for them to happen, right? So I think we have to take a little bit of responsibility as the business owner to put that in place as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, systems and processes where it's at. And that's what I realized when I was looking at creating that ISA certification piece. ISAs don't really have a clear concept of what their duty is, or even the responsibility that they have. Yeah. They're the first responders. They are the face of that company. And they need to take that job very, very seriously, because that is the first interaction that lead is going to have with their company. And the importance of that person that's communicating with these leads to understand that that's your face that you're putting out there with every conversation you're having with these leads. And if you're having a conversation and you're telling them you're going to follow up and you don't, not only is that making you feel bad as an agent because you don't feel like you're really following up and following through. So it's really working on your own success, because then you don't believe that you really are great at what you do because you are letting people down. Mm-hmm. So having too many leads is really a detriment. And less is more. Less is always more. Less is more in the amount of leads you're getting. Less is more in the amount of automation that's going out, because it's way too easy to block phone numbers and block emails and block text messages now. Mm-hmm. Less is always more. in this business.
It's gonna get harder.
And it's going to get harder. Yeah. Well, when we just had a problem, November 13th, I swear something happened to the email gods because AOL and Yahoo has blocked every email coming from all of our CRMs.
Of course,
I have seen such an amazing increase, and I'm the only geek that realizes it because I'm calling so many leads and I pay attention to stupid shit that nobody else pays attention to. Mm-hmm. But we had so many people that were showing like bad emails, spam emails, and unsubscribed, and I saw what was going on. I reached out to both companies, and both companies confirmed it's not Sierra, it's not Commissions Inc. It is the email servers delivering that changed their, I don't know what you want to call it.
Conveniently changed.
Yeah, the delivery. And it's like block. And I'm having conversations with these people, and they're like, I never got an email. So it's blocking before they even get it there. The people are not spamming it.
Have you ever taken a DISC assessment?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you, an S?
Oh, I am a D beyond. I am 100% D.
Are you? Oh.
Adaptive and personally. I have no CNS in me, but my CNS pulls up because I'm such a high D. I have to have efficiency. I got to get done. Yeah. It's got to work. It's got to be easy. It's got to be simple, and it's got to be communicable.
Yeah. I'm such a D. I just yell.
I have to have systems and processes because if it's foggy, I'm not going to do it. It has to be super simple. It has to be workable and duplicatable.
I agree. And y'all, I'm sure if you sampled your database, we're going to wind it down because we're getting up to an hour now, a little bit over an hour. If you go through your database, there's business there.
Okay.
Now, when Linda did her assessment of 30 million, that was just one point in time, you see. If you go on logic, you'd have to say it was 30 million the year before. Now, when I do the math, my calculator won't even handle that. That is your money. Your money going out the window. If you had an extra 500,000 coming into the business, agent got their split, you got your split. That's a significant difference in their lives and in your bottom line. You're paying for this. Might as well put the right systems and policies in place. Anyways, this is what Beverly does. This is why I love her, because she's the only person I know that does this. She's got specialists on her team that can export from one and bring into another and, do all these things to get your systems in place so that you can become the efficient machine. Take these leads that are coming in, these inquiries that come in. Again, 50 million leads and inquiries were generated. Not 50 million homes were sold. So you gotta work through these, stay consistent. And oftentimes we know what I'm about to say. Consumers go with the first agent, usually, sometimes, that they talk to, or when the opportunity arises. I followed up with people 12, 13, 14, 18 times. And they've said, man, you are consistent. How do you do it?
Discipline. Johnny, I just pulled one of the sites that I've been working for a while, and in the last 47 days, I'm looking back at my last phone call 47 days ago, I have 12 people that have already purchased that I've spoke to. 12 people in 47 days that I've spoke to.
That's pretty good.
Well, that's missed opportunity.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
Oh, pretty bad. I got. I'm on the other side. I'm thinking purchase with you, purchase with them. Okay. Yeah.
That's horrible.
And I'm making you the host. You're in charge now.
Because I just started working this dashboard about 47 days ago, about 2 months ago, and they never had any calls in here. They had a call center years ago, but literally I'm getting a lot of answers because there hasn't been many people. But I have a lot of answers because they haven't had a lot of phone calls. But yeah, so 12 people in the last 47 days since I started working the dashboard.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Now, if you take 47, if you sample that, right, 47, how many 47s go into 365? 365 divided by 47, that's 7.7 times 12. You're looking at 93.
What number were you just doing? I'm confused.
So I took that 47 days and I made it 365. And
if you have that many every 40, yeah.
Right. That's logic. I mean, upwards to 93 opportunities if sampled throughout the entire year.
And that is a database that has 13,956 leads.
Wow. That's
And
somebody.
I've just started.
That's somebody that's just doing this. Boom, boom, boom. But the money, there's a lot of money, guys, in that immediate need, right? That immediate come in, boom, take them out. There's money there. No denying it. But there's tenfold in that follow-up over the next year, right? And if the agents aren't going to do that, what policy are you going to put into place to ensure that these are being nurtured? Is it a drip campaign? Don't even talk to me about drip campaigns, right? Don't even talk. I refuse to do them for Explore My Town. I will not do them. We have an automated newsletter feature that's going to go out based upon the posts that are made. I don't want a drip campaign. Either I'm going to follow you on Facebook, or we're going to talk on the phone, or that's it, right?
Be real. So I just pulled opportunities. I have 32 opportunities.
Well, in that same 47 days.
Yep.
Got to do it. That's crazy.
And so it's getting organized. So my high is not really off the opportunities. My high is organizing all these leads and putting them into the buckets. I'm like, yes, I've had these conversations.
I don't want to know the market, but do you know what the average sale price is in that area?
Oh, she's in no, she's not in Bellingham, Washington. She's up in like the Vermont area of Washington state. So they're 500s. Well, she's anywhere from like, because she'll go out and in the market, but 300,000 average.
All right, so 300,000 times what?
Oh, the 32 opportunities.
9.6 million sitting right there. I'll be happy as a pig with that for the year.
It's all pipeline, and it's all most of those are coming from, I call it the danger filter, where they were moved to contacted without having any labels or having any reminders, and they were just lost in the abyss. So I'm going back in there, and I queue up 25 at a time, and I'm just going through.
I would think that is a big number, big percentage of people that are just forgotten about.
Oh, it's the biggest part of the databases, and that's where I dig up my gold. And that's where I can jump in any dashboard and get an opportunity within the first 30 minutes.
I don't watch TV, right? I don't even have cable, but my friend does. So when I go over there, he's always got like Nat Geo, a History Channel on or something else like that. And there's this one show, they're in the Bering Sea, where they're going in the Bering Sea diving, and they're sucking up the soil because there's gold in that soil, and they make a ton of money. Hopefully, that's the goal. But it's all that hard work. The goal doesn't just, you don't go buy a pan and all of a sudden you're a multimillionaire. You know, there's a lot of hard work. So going into that abyss, doing the hard work, sorting through all the BS and the rubble and the crap to get that little bit of gold.
Well, I think that's what most agents just want to know. Like, who should I call? Where do I go? When I go in my database, I got hundreds of leads in here. Where do I go? What do I do?
And you can help people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's 310. Let's open it up. If y'all have any questions, raise your hand. I don't know if you can unmute yourself. If you can unmute yourself, unmute yourself. And talk. I know Ann's got something to say.
You just, I have a business with virtual assistants, and when we have customers that come in, when you started talking about close ratio, that really, that's the question that so many people ask me, what are your VA's close ratios? I'm like, that's really not quite the question you need to be asking. It's what are your systems? What are your scripts? I talked to one of my VAs today I would say that we're getting close to losing a customer because the customer has bad scripting and just some bad systems. And instead of really digging in and taking a look at what this person's doing, it's somebody else's problem. And it's my VA's fault. And it really comes in, I've invested over $1 million in my CRM. And I cannot tell you that it's in awesome shape. It will be after I talk to you, but because I'd like to have somebody come in and just sort of clean it up a bit. And we are switching to CRMs as well. But, you really have to dig in and kind of look in the mirror.
Absolutely. And Ann, you said it so well, because I just wrote a blog article on how ISAs get the bad rap. because it's really not the ISA's fault. They were hired with false expectations of I got all these leads, get me an appointment, with no system.
There is not an agent out there that's ever wrong. Okay.
Oh, me. I'm always wrong. My mama taught me that, Johnny Mo.
Blame is level 1 energy.
I have one of those parents that I could never do anything right. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thank my parents for that because it made me push harder.
Right. So yeah, I mean, that's a real thing. Is, you know, everybody wants to blame everybody else, but when you come down to it, I'll trace it back to abdication.
Mm-hmm.
They abdicated the responsibility to the VA because the VA is going to come in and miraculously fix everything.
Well, and that's what I love about tagging, because I can go, if I have agents that are working the system, and this is what I find, they have one tag that's their favorite and everybody has an agent. And I'm like, okay, what are you manifesting? When you're having these conversations on these calls, are you asking these people if they have an agent? Like, you're basically just asking for, because you don't want to dig deeper and get the real truth. So when I look at a database and I see too many leads and certain things, I'm like, all right, we need to talk about your conversations here, because everything that you do in your dashboard is going to tell a story, and you can really dive in to find out where's the weakness and what do I need to train to. Because if there's too many leads that are in the contacted stage and not going, like with a reminder, and not going to the appointment set stage, what kind of conversations are we having? If there's people in the appointment set, but we're not moving them to showing, are we setting appointments with the wrong people? Are we having the wrong conversations and setting false expectations? So you can really be able to train and tell what is happening in your dashboard by the way the agents are working it once you have your systems in place.
A lot of people are just looking for somebody to say, yes, they'll meet, or something else like that, running out the door, where I really do believe in it. It's saying no is so powerful, but you gotta qualify that lead, right? Because
100%. Well, anybody, if you're a good salesperson, you can get a credit card from anybody, and then they have buyer's remorse. If you're a good salesperson, you can get someone to say yes to an appointment, but then they're not going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to really be versed in setting the expectation for that appointment to increase your show up ratio, because you can set tons of appointments, but what does that really mean for them showing up?
Not much.
Exactly.
All right. Any more questions? I gotta go take a nap. Just kidding. A million things to do. But this is good stuff. And really it starts, there's different levels to that database. And that's why I don't even like using the term database per se.
Well, and I offer free levels. So if you go to the Fix Your CRM, we have the top of the level, we have the medium, and then we even have a free where you can, like, I teach you how to do it yourself. So, you know, it's whatever is going to work for you and whatever your needs are in your database. I love cleaning up dashboards. I just have this sickness.
It is a sickness. Anyway, y'all, put the link.
It's so rewarding.
I put the link in the chat. It's, what'd you call it?
Fix Your CRM.
FixYourCRM.com to connect with Beverly. She's probably on social media too. Everybody is these days.
And I dial live all the time on my Facebook, on my real estate Facebook page. I was just dialing live before we jumped on here. I was calling leads that were in the lost file.
And I know that my friend, my client, wouldn't be using her if it didn't work. Right? So he watches his money. He knows what works, and it's what she's done for him is working. So if there's any questions ever, reach out to me, reach out to Beverly. If you want a solid answer, reach out to her. I will bullshit all the way through the answer, because this is not my strong point. This is your strong point. We all have gifts. This is your gift. If there's not any final questions, going to give it to the count of 3. Unmute yourself, raise your hand, put it in the chat. Then I'm just going to hit end, because y'all are adults and can connect outside of me here.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Always a pleasure.
3, 2. Hey, everybody. Be well, be safe.
Bye.
Thank you.